Welcome everyone to the third episode of our video series, Air Quality Matters. I'm Drew Dintaman with Aeroqual, and today with me, I am very pleased to have Kenneth Tramm from Moderngeosciences. Right now, Kenneth is based in the Dallas, Texas area, and right now they're going through a historic cold snap. So along with being the founder, one of the program managers at Moderngeosciences, Kenneth is an adjunct professor and author. And I guess this week you've been a snow shoveler as well. So without further ado, Kenneth, welcome. Great to have you, and please introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you very much. Well, you've hit the high points. I'll just mention a word on Moderngeosciences for you. We're an engineering firm. I had managed environmental departments and divisions. I've been doing this now for 25 plus years, but at very large firms, 20,000, 30,000 people. And along the way, I've always wanted to kind of maybe pull back a little bit and focus on kind of advancing some of the areas that we can serve our clients. And that includes air quality, obviously, that we'll talk about today, but kind of just furthering the advances of what are better tools, right? So in 2011, I founded Moderngeosciences for that reason, with the name Modern in the front, to emphasize we need to stay true to that goal, being modern and current and innovative where we can. So anyway, we've been around since 2011. We've got roughly 20 folks, and we've done work in probably about 15 different states now, give or take. We're focused mainly in the Gulf Southeast area, but we go where the projects call.
One of the projects that we've talked about, and we're going to be talking about today, which is really interesting, is known as, most people would know this as Shingle Mountain. It's been profiled on a national scale. And so can you tell us what is, for better or worse, Shingle Mountain?
Sure. So here, I'm assisting the city with this project where we refer to it as its operational name, former Blue Star recycling facility. But in a nutshell, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this property, which is in a zone commercial industrial area, but it backs up to residential lots, was an asphalt shingle recycling facility maybe they were a hopeful one. But at the end of the day, they had moved roughly what will probably end up being 150 to 175,000 tons of shingles, just like you had found on your roof, and had a hope to take them, dismantle them down to just the asphaltic components. So they make what's called RAS, recycled asphalt shingle. And it's in its granular form. You can put that back into roadways, right? Make asphalt roads, et cetera. But the market kind of dried up because of some engineering and quality concerns, not necessarily with this facility, but just in this process. And so that musical chair game had stopped, leaving this very large stockpile, in my words, mountain in other words, of shingle material that had environmental concerns associated with it, just because of the operations and because of what they were. And so this city has stepped in to try to rectify that. Obviously, there were some legal elements to that, both in the encouragement of the activity and in getting access to perform it. But that, at least when it arrived to me, was none of those parts, but how can we address the removal of this material, any impacted media underneath it, and mitigate any impact to these neighboring stakeholders, which quite honestly have been next to it for quite a while now, and we just cannot impact them any further. And so to know that we are not impacting them, we have to have hard data to do it. So, but that's Blue Star recycling, in my words.
That's great. And you talked about the stakeholders a bit. Some of their concerns. I mean, these types of projects where you have, community next to, some sort of industrial site or facility or construction site, whatever it is. In this case, it's common that these gains a bit of steam and gets picked up, by the media, and it takes on, another life in that sense. So there's challenges around it. Are there any specific challenges, that you really had to think about when you're addressing? And then, what's the solution that you guys are offering here?
Sure. So, a few of the challenges. Number one is if you're going to work in an urban environment, you need to understand, right? What are the contaminants that are in air? Having done remedial projects where we did the monitoring for your
Yeah,
traditional dry cleaners, right? Solvent impact, uh, lead impacted soil, fuel impacts from your typical gas station. When they're up against
yeah,
sensitive
sure.
receptors, it's a different type of project. It has another dimension to it. This one had probably a more heightened sensitivity in that there have been a lot of activists connected to this to encourage this process to begin. And so there was a need to not just set the bar high in making sure that we mitigated, but that we documented it and that we understood where we were, as I mentioned. So we did a baseline first, right? So we put our monitors out, understood before there was ever a single shingle taken off the site or even any soil that had shingle material in it taken off the site. And only after the baseline was done, finished with a monitoring program that had discrete points so we could dynamically move to where work was happening. And then we have continuous points outside that ring the project. And then we needed those points to give us minute by minute data so we can make
Yeah,
decisions about, do we have odor control issues? Do we have dust control, meaning we increase our dust suppression? Do we alter the way we're performing work? By having real-time alerts that would hit our phones, not just mine,
yeah.
sometimes in the office, sometimes in the field, but everybody in the field who was manning it. So real-time data acquisition, probably the biggest challenge.
So yeah, on that point, I mean, that's a great thing to point out is the data on these types of projects are critical, right? And in this case, as with many of these scale projects, especially when they have some, real community engagement or involvement or concern, they're putting that data out for the public at some point in some interval, right? On some
True.
cadence,
Right.
right?
So yes, getting the data right is always job one.
Yeah,
Using that data to make better decisions goes with that. Job two here was communication,
yeah,
right? And so we worked with the city so that we actually put together a dashboard that actually has not only a summary of here's where we are progress wise on the removal of the material, which was very important, but also here's where the thresholds were for the air quality criteria. Here's the data for our air quality comparison to make sure we're meeting our goals. And then progress photos along the way, starting with a very large file. And as time has gone on in a series of months, now we're down to mainly the earthwork is happening right now as you and I are talking.